Good afternoon. My name is Carrie Filiberto, and I am the Deputy Executive Director of ConsensusDocs. Thank you for participating in today's 90-minute webinar. Today you will learn about the recently released new and updated ConsensusDocs contracts. A link to the recording and a copy of the PowerPoint presentation will be emailed to you. You'll also have an opportunity to ask questions of our speakers. Please type your questions in the questions box, and we'll have the speakers address them at the end of this presentation. I would now like to introduce our esteemed speakers, Ted Argyle, Carole Bionda, and Brian Perlberg. Ted Argyle is the past chair of the ConsensusDocs Drafting Council and vice president of COA, the Construction Owners Association of America. He is also the chief of the Civil Division of the Ada County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. His areas of concentration include employment relations, land use, civil rights, construction, real estate, and local government law. Ted received his undergraduate and law degrees from the University of Idaho. He practiced law in South Carolina for several years prior to returning to Idaho and joining the Ada County Prosecuting Attorney's Office in 1984, where he has been the Chief Civil Deputy since 1988. Ted also writes and lectures frequently for the Idaho Prosecuting Attorneys Association and the Idaho Association of Counties, and has taught courses for the Idaho Bar Association and several national training organizations. Carole Bionda is the chair of the ConsensusDocs Drafting Council and a representative for ABC, the Associated Builders and Contractors Incorporated. She is also the vice president of Nova Group Incorporated, a West Coast contractor specializing in hydrant fueling, waterfront, and marine utility construction projects for the United States government. Carole has extensive experience in the construction industry and has served in national leadership positions in a number of construction-related organizations. She served as the chair of Associated Builders and Contractors and as the president of Women Construction Owners and Executives USA. She is an active member of the Associated General Contractors of America, National Diversity Committee, the Design Build Task Force, and the Small Business Committee of the Society of American Military Engineers. She received her law degree from Stanford University School of Law and a bachelor's degree from the University of California at Berkeley, and is a faculty member at Sonoma State University. Brian Perlberg is the Executive Director of ConsensusDocs and Senior Counsel of Construction Law and Contract Documents at the Associated General Contractors of America in the Washington, D.C. area. Brian also provides counsel regarding AGC's participation as a commenting organization of the American Institute of Architects documents, the AIA documents, and serves on the American Bar Association's Forum on the Construction Industry Steering Committee for Contract Documents. We are very lucky to have such prominent Construction Industry Association attorneys for our presentation today.
Thank you, Carrie. This is Brian Perlberg, and I'm talking to you today from the Washington, D.C. area. And you know, it's actually a cloudy, gray day today, but I'm pretty excited and happy to be talking to you today because I have some good news to report and something positive to report to the industry that's really been in the doldrums, been hit by really difficult economic times. And what I'm talking about is the ConsensusDocs Coalition, which has been able to achieve many firsts and take a lead role on some tough emerging issues in the construction industry, has been able to hit another major milestone, and that is to do a comprehensive update of our general terms and conditions, which we published just this January the 19th. And the good news is that these refinements and updates to our documents can help you on your next project before you sign it. So on today's webinar, our three main objectives are to talk generally as an overview of the ConsensusDocs contracts catalog and our drafting philosophy. We're also going to give you highlights and overview of our most substantive and important provisions in our contract documents family, and we're going to highlight the provisions in our general terms and conditions. And I'm going to be able to talk about the new latest and greatest. And like I said, I think they're pretty great, the revisions to our core agreements, which we just recently published. So today's webinar is quite timely. Okay, trying to go to the next slide here. There we go. So let me take you back in time. We're in 2011, but let me take you back, flash backwards just 4 years, a better time for the design and construction industry. And that was the first time there was a major achievement, and a lot of people say it was the year of the contract documents because AIA and EJCDC published revisions to their documents. But in 2007, there was a new player on the construction contract document scene, and that was ConsensusDocs, a coalition of major stakeholders in the design and construction industry that had never been able to come together before in the United States. It had been done in other countries, but it was the first time in the U.S. that you got owners groups, contractors groups, subcontractors groups, surety groups, and yes, design professionals to be invited to and have a seat at the drafting table to create better standard construction contracts with the ultimate goal of improving project results. Rather than represent one segment of the industry, the coalition's main focus was to get to fairer contracts that had provided a better foundation to build. A lot of people said that could never happen because you couldn't get such disparate interests together to actually agree on the contract documents that provides the performance that's required from their members. Traditionally, what you had is one association presenting their viewpoint of the industry that was then used as a standard. By getting so many different groups together, it was big news. And what you're seeing is a picture of the cover of Engineering News Record, ENR, the most prominent publication in the design and construction industry, and it made the cover story. I actually have this image plastered in my living room as wallpaper. And what it says is about consensus, as well as, well, some other organizations that chose not to be involved, but the main focus of the argument cover story was consensus. And let me just read an excerpt. It was the cover story as well as the lead story in the editorial. And what ENR said was, "This is one of the rare times where much of the industry came together and attempted change. If successful, the effort may go a long way to cutting down the mountain of modified standard paperwork that has bogged down many projects and choked courts, arbitrators, mediators, and dispute review boards. This has the potential of being something really big if given a chance." And the Nearing Times Smart Brief put out a survey in which COA owners were asked, is this the ConsensusDocs, is this something that would add value to your bottom line? And 94% said yes, they thought that it would be helpful to their industry and their projects. Okay. Bear with me. So, who is ConsensusDocs? Well, now there's 33 leading construction industry associations that are part of the coalition of the willing, if you will, to build a better industry. And it's quite an impressive coalition. Like I said before, you historically had the industry have one association. And as I mentioned before, there's a inherent problem when you have one association producing contract documents that represents their members' bias and segment of the industry. And no matter what is in the contract, there's going to be a perception of bias. So AGC had a great set of documents. They actually folded in their contract documents as well as COA to the effort. And the reason being is no matter how good AGC contracts are and how fair they were to, say, owners, by getting owner input, who do you think the contract would be perceived to favor? Well, of course, it would be perceived to favor general contractors. It's sort of the principle of who do you jump with. And I can tell you, as AGC's counsel for contracts, when we had AGC contract documents, it was sort of the principle of who do you jump for. Because at the end of the day, if AGC didn't like a provision in their contract, it wasn't going to wind up in there, no matter, even if you had some solicitation of feedback. Now, with ConsensusDocs, all of the members are invited to the table and have a true seat, not being a petitioner, but actually as a collaborator on creating a better contract. And the same is true for COA. And Ted, as the incoming president of COA, could you talk a little bit about what it means for COA, and then I would just quickly highlight maybe some of the fellow owner groups that are part of the ConsensusDocs coalition.
Thank you, Brian. This is Ted Argyle. I'm the incoming president of the Construction Owners Association of America. We're a group of about 700 members. In 2008, last time we surveyed our members, we had over half of our organizations with construction budgets of over $100 million a year. Most of our members do at least 10 projects a year, and because of our membership, we have a tendency to be focused on vertical construction, although some of our members do some horizontal construction. COA was approached by the AGC a number of years ago with a suggestion which was a little bit earth-shaking at the time, which was that perhaps owners and contractors should get together, arm wrestle over documents, and come up with a set that provided best practices, treated everybody in the process fairly, gave everybody a voice, and in exchange, both organizations agreed to no longer promote or produce their individual organization document sets. We thought that was a pretty good approach, and we were interested in the experiment. We have been participating with the other member organizations in the ConsensusDocs process since that time, and in fact we're an original endorsing member on the document sets in 2007. We think our relationship with the member organizations has been very productive. It's provided an opportunity for owners to speak about owner issues to a coalition of organizations, and to also understand the points of view and the motivating factors driving other organizations and their members, and allow us to seek common ground on contracts and contracts clauses. So from our perspective, the ConsensusDocs process has been very valuable, especially the part where contract clauses are not either promoted, inserted, or amended without consensus being reached by all of the participants. Very productive process from our point of view.
And let me just add that owners drive the process, and they start the process. And it's really significant. These three organizations, and now added these three organizations, a total of 6 owner-oriented organizations, and certainly the top 3 most prominent, NASFA, the National Association of Facilities Administrators, CURT, Construction Users Roundtable, and COA, are part of the ConsensusDocs coalition, because before this, owners did not have or did not feel like they had a seat at the table. And at the end of the day, the owner has the most to gain or lose. And so I think that it's pretty significant, the owner involvement in the documents. Carole, would you like to add a little bit from your perspective of what it means from ABC's perspective to be a part of the coalition?
Thank you. Indeed I would, Brian, and good afternoon, everyone. Associated Builders and Contractors is a construction trade association representing some 23,000 merit shop construction and construction-related firms, surety and insurance brokers, construction and labor attorneys, consultants to construction firms. ABC's membership represents both general builders and contractors, as well as specialty builders, electrical, mechanical, whatever. While all of ABC construction firm members, general and specialty, are united in our core purpose of advancing the principles of the merit shop, free enterprise, fair and open competition. Because of the mix of general and specialty, each with an equal vote, over ABC's 50-plus year history, politically we've been unable to agree upon contractual terms. However, precisely because of that mix, and because of the mix on the ConsensusDocs coalition, AGC representing the GCs, ASA representing the subs, COA and CURT representing owners, the continuing growing number of specialty trade associations